What's out here is an enemy so advanced, so evil, it's a miracle we haven't been wiped out or enslaved yet.
The Goa'uld are more advanced than us in every way, and there can be no doubt that they have hostile intentions.
Can we negotiate with them?
The Goa'uld are a predatory species, sir. They will enslave a planet or in the face of resistance simply wipe out its inhabitants. They don't negotiate.
They're coming. They're coming.
The Fermi paradox. It begs the question, where are the aliens? It's estimated that there are billions to tens of billions of planets in the Milky Way with Earth-like conditions. Many of these planets are actually billions of years older than Earth, meaning that there should be a strong likelihood of intelligent life on other planets. Yet, there are no signs. No ruins, no probes, no signals, nothing. Keep in mind, Earth has also been sending signals into space for quite a long time now. So, where are all the aliens? One of the theories that seek to explain this is the predator theory, that the reason we haven't found any intelligent life is because when it becomes advanced enough, it would catch the attention of some predatory entity that takes it out. Many theories for Fermi paradox have overlap. The predator theory has similarities with the dark force theory and the berserker theory. The dark force posits that alien civilizations are hiding in fear of predatory civilizations. Imagine you are in a dark forest. You don't know what's out there. Could be predators, could be people. And even if it was people, you don't know if their intentions are friendly or not. So you opt to stay silent rather than call out and find out what's in the darkness. Then there is the berserker theory, which posits that when a civilization becomes advanced enough, they'll catch the attention of destructive, self-replicating robots, which will come and wipe them out. There is a creepypasta short called Radio Silence, where humanity finally gets an answer to all its screaming into space in the form of one sentence. Be quiet, or they'll hear you. The predator theory lays somewhere in between the two. When a civilization becomes advanced enough, it will catch the attention of some predatory entity which will wipe it out. This has been a common trope in sci-fi. For Mass Effect, the Predator was the Reapers, who regularly exterminate and harvest the advanced civilizations. Where are the aliens? The advanced ones are dead, and the ones left behind are too primitive to communicate. In Dead Space, the predatory entity are the Brethren Moons. Advanced civilizations will become too desperate for energy that they turn to the Markers, which provide an unlimited energy source. But the Markers are a trap that will kill everyone on the planet and use their biomass to create a gigantic organism called a Brethren Moon. For Stargate, the predatory entity are the Goa'uld.
Beware the destroyers.
Some of 233's aliens must have sent out the warning before their civilization was destroyed by the ghouls.
In my opinion, the Goa'uld are the most misunderstood race in the Stargate franchise. Not misunderstood by the characters, mind you, but misunderstood by the audience. There is this belief that the Goa'uld were little more than galactic bullies, only punching down because they're not capable of putting up a real fight. And the moment someone who actually can put up the fight, like the Tari, show up on scene, they get steamrolled. I've seen many claim that if Earth really wanted to, they could have overthrown the Goa'uld and never needed 303 or 304. That the only reason they didn't was because of plot. But this is not supported by the series at all. The Goa'uld Empire was an immensely powerful empire that could easily conquer Earth, and has in alternate realities and timelines. It was immensely powerful, however, it was also immensely flawed. The bulk of the history of the Goa'uld is provided by expanded media, which tends to be very controversial in its canonicity. What we do know is that they appeared to have first evolved on P3X888 over 100,000 years ago. They were a snake or worm-like species living in the lakes and oceans of the planet. Fossilized Goa'uld skeletons indicate that these early Goa'uld lack many of the traits found in Goa'uld today. They have no naquita in their systems and were predatory rather than parasitic. At some unknown point in time, they developed the parasitic ability to possess bodies they inhabit. The first hosts taken were a species known as the Unas, beasts of great power and savagery, and natives of the Goa'uld homeworld. This was likely because Unas saw the Goa'uld as a food source, so when these worms evolved the parasitic abilities they would be known for, Unas were inevitably their first victims. The first Goa'uld-infested Unas were just part of the ecosystems of the Unas, you could say. The Unas were a tribal people, and the Goa'uld Unas formed their own tribe. Eventually, the Goa'uld Unas would figure out how to use the Stargate, and began using it to explore other planets. Something about the Goa'uld is that when they take a host, they don't just possess the body. They learn everything the host knows. They gain all the host's knowledge and memories. Not only that, their children also gain these memories upon birth via genetic memory. This gives the Goa'uld a near unlimited penchant for learning.
If anything, the fact that he knew how to set the auto-destruct code proves that there's hope for Charest and Skara.
How?
Because only Kowalski could have known that code.
So something of the host must survive.
This is also around where the series presented knowledge of the Goa'uld becomes hazy. According to expanded materials, the Goa'uld would discover worlds formerly controlled by the Ancients, which provided the Goa'uld with advanced technology. Something to note is that in the material, there is a 14,000-year time skip between when the Goa'uld left their home planet and when they found ancient technology. I bring this up as I struggle to believe that Goa'uld could have figured out ancient technology in such a short period of time. To put this into perspective, 12,000 years ago was around the beginning of the Stone Age. While the Goa'uld have many advantages over humans, such as their genetic memory and long lifespan, I struggle to believe that they were advanced enough to figure out ancient technology in that short of time. Now, admittedly, this part is just a theory, but I believe more happened than just them building up a civilization. I believe that in the 14,000 years, the Goa'uld were exploring the galaxy, perhaps as adventurers, perhaps as conquerors, perhaps as wandering nomads, but the important part is that during this time they were amassing knowledge. So when they do find ancient technology, they had the signs of countless spacefaring civilizations by that point to help them figure it out. And once they did, the Goa'uld threat exploded. This marked the first Goa'uld dynasty. The first leader was Ha'tak, though he would quickly be usurped by Apep. For a time, the Goa'uld were united under Apep's leadership, as they set out to conquer the galaxy. They swept across the Milky Way like a plague. Every conquered civilization added to their might in some way. Nation after nation fell before them. Their scientific knowledge was added to their collective, their peoples taken as hosts. While scientists like Thoth had a wide field of study, Ptah focused on spaceships, and it was from him the Goa'uld fleet was born. He designed the Ha'tak vessel by reverse engineering ancient ships. This Ha'tak proved far superior to the ships of other nations, and soon he included other designs such as the Tel'tak and Death Gliders. And with this fleet, the Goa'uld overran the galaxy. It has been 24,000 years since the Goa'uld left their homeworld, and 10,000 years since they discovered ancient technology. Around 30,000 years ago, they were the dominant nation in the galaxy. However, the unity they've experienced all this time was about to end. Amongst the ancient technology was a healing device. However, it was designed for the advanced physiology of the ancients. It was so powerful, it could give life to that which was never alive to begin with. However, it came with a host of negative side effects for lesser beings. The Goa'uld Thoth studied the ancient healing device and used it to make his own version. It was an effective healing device that could extend the Goa'uld lifespan to the brink of immortality, but it couldn't solve all the issues, such as the toll on the mind, or how addictive it was. Another side effect was that it was adding naquita to the bloodstream of the symbiote, and this eventually became part of normal Goa'uld physiology. This is likely why the Goa'uld of the homeworld, even to this day, do not have naquita in the blood. Now, if you know about the Goa'uld sarcophagus, you'll know about its negative side effects. This device wasn't a sarcophagus just yet, but it was the very first generation of devices that would ultimately become the sarcophagus. But this far more primitive device had even worse side effects than the sarcophagus, and the Goa'uld were using it. One of Apep's underlords was the ambitious Goa'uld Anubis. He exposed Apep to Thoth's new healing device, far more than other Goa'uld, and over 300 years, Apep loses his mind. "20,000 years ago, seeing his chance, Anubis kills Apep, declaring himself as the new leader of the Goa'uld. However, the Goa'uld do not accept this. The ensuing war lasts for 100 years, or 300 years? Okay. Anyways, because of the size and might of the Goa'uld Empire, the Milky Way galaxy was ravaged by the war, entire planets, stars, and even star systems destroyed. Entire races had become extinct or pretty close to it, planets rendered uninhabitable. Simply put, the Milky Way galaxy was nearly rendered uninhabitable by the Civil War. Anubis was banished, and the Milky Way galaxy was left devastated. This marked the second Goa'uld dynasty as Ra, another one of Apep's followers and leaders during the Civil War, declared himself the new ruler. It was here that Ra officially created the System Lords. The System Lords would be the top dominant Goa'uld, and Ra appointed himself as the Supreme System Lord. The second Goa'uld dynasty is where the Goa'uld really hit their stride, as they began to adapt the characteristics we would eventually come to know. The Goa'uld Empire began to rebuild, but the toll of its civil war was extreme. They lost the coordinates to their original homeworld, and the worlds that would have good hosts were either bombed to extinction or straight up destroyed. Fact was, there were too many symbiotes and too few hosts. While their near immortality staved it off, if they didn't find a solution, they would become extinct. Roughly 15,000 years ago, their second expansion caught the attention of the Asgard. Horrified by what they saw, the Asgard declared war on the Goa'uld. The Goa'uld Empire was on the brink of collapse, the Goa'uld, or at least the intelligent Goa'uld, on the brink of extinction. At first, they were eager to go to war once more. The Asgard represented not just more technology to plunder, but new hosts. However, it soon became apparent that the parasites bit off more than they could chew. While the Goa'uld do manage some victories against the Asgard, they are hopelessly outmatched. Ra loses his Unas host and is forced to take an Asgard, Famir, as one. However, the Asgard's crumbling physiology makes it an ill-suited host. If this had kept up, the Goa'uld really would be rendered extinct. The Asgard pursued the crippled Ra in an attempt to snuff out the Goa'uld. It was around this point Ra finds a verdant world rich with life where he encountered a primitive race, humans. A species with all his powers and knowledge he could maintain indefinitely. He realized that within a human body he had a chance at a new life. This is when things start taking shape. In the face of other spacefaring civilizations the Goa'uld conquered, they were merely more advanced. In the face of these primitives, they were divine. Combined with how their minds were being twisted by Thoth's healing device, this made them megalomaniacal. Ra carves up the planet amongst the Goa'uld. It was his domain. However, lesser Goa'uld could request permission to come visit. Humans are bred quickly to increase their population, or they sent off-world through the Stargate Ra had brought with him. The Tari proved to be the perfect host. Not only are they more visually appealing than the hosts of the past, but borderline non-existent chance of rejection. On the planet of Dakara, humans were experimented on and eventually mutated into a race of slave warriors, the Jaffa. And from there, the Goa'uld surged forth anew, more dangerous than ever before. This also formed their new modus operandi. Rulership was not enough. They wanted to be gods after seeing the worship of these primitives. So when they overtook a new civilization, they declared themselves not just the new alien overlords, but the new gods.
Our homeworld was under attack. We were sent out to find allies, but when we got here, we realized you weren't advanced enough to help us.
Oh, we have our moments.
The enemy was too powerful. They wanted to make us slaves. They wanted us to worship them like gods.
It was around this time that Thoth's student, Telchak, after extensive study of the ancient healing device, created a perfected version. Still able to raise the dead and enhance the living, but its negative side effects were removed or diminished. It no longer injected naquita into the blood, and while its mind-altering detriments were still present, it was to a lesser degree. And with this, the Goa'uld could live indefinitely. The threat of the Goa'uld now bordered on unstoppable. They bred humans and Jaffa on thousands of different planets. They even added more planets to their domain by terraforming them. It's half the reason so many of them bear such a striking resemblance to Earth. The Goa'uld made it so.
It is no accident. Many Stargate worlds were terraformed by the Goa'uld centuries ago.
Uninhabitable worlds became verdant paradises, only for the Goa'uld to use them as farms. This was the height of Goa'uld power, the Golden Age, if you would. They had successfully conquered the entirety of the Milky Way. What was left was merely a cleanup job. The civilizations that hadn't been conquered were because they had escaped notice. Perhaps they were too primitive or too peaceful. However, if and when a civilization becomes too advanced, the Goa'uld would notice and come for them. The Goa'uld were at the height of their power, and with the perfect slaves to breed in uncontrollable numbers. It seemed that this was an empire to last forever. It's hard to say what marked the end of the Second Dynasty and the rise of the Third Dynasty. The First Dynasty could be described as how the Goa'uld got their footing. Encounters with spacefaring civilizations of the Milky Way gave them enough knowledge that when they find ancient technology, they are able to exploit it and use it to begin their conquest. They were far cry from good people, but they were not the monsters they would come to be known as. Apep's death, Ra's rise to power, and the formation of the System Lords marked the beginning of the Second Dynasty. The First Dynasty was when the Goa'uld cudgeled the galaxy into submission. The Second Dynasty was when they honed their craft into a blade to use against their foes. Their civil war nearly rendered them extinct, nearly rendered everything in the galaxy extinct. But they found a species that let them explode forth into the galaxy again until they reigned supreme, having conquered all other nations. The System Lords became the rulers of the galaxy. However, it was during the Second Dynasty cracks began to appear. Thoth's faulty first attempt at a healing device was warping the minds of the Goa'uld who used it. And while still mostly united, the Goa'uld had begun to eye each other with greed and envy. The end of the Second Dynasty is when their unity began to break. Several Goa'uld made grabs for power. The first several attempts were made by Osiris. Isis and Seth failed. Osiris and Isis are both punished, ripped from their hosts and put into canopic jars, while Seth flees to Earth to hide amongst his people. Anubis returns from banishment, promising to defeat the Asgard in exchange for fealty from the System Lords. However, this time things look a bit better for Anubis as several System Lords join his cause. Another civil war devastated the galaxy, but this time the Goa'uld are more careful with their power, and could breed at even higher numbers than before. Anubis and his allies were defeated, and it was believed Anubis was killed. And this was just the beginning. The Goa'uld began fighting amongst each other for more power, and keep in mind, they were still at war with the Asgard. Sometime between 8000 BC and 1000 BC, Earth revolts against the Goa'uld. They overthrow the local forces and bury the Stargate. I know that this is a 7,000 year time gap, but the exact date is unknown. While inconvenient, Ra had his hands full with more pressing matters. Fact was, they had already seeded the galaxy with plenty of humans, and didn't need Earth. And frankly, shrugging off a planet wasn't unusual. It was common for the Goa'uld to send humans to work as slaves on some distant planet. And once the planet is of no more use, the people on it are abandoned. The Goa'uld might come back if they desire the territory, but they are, for the most part, forgotten.
But there are many more worlds that the Goa'ulds have no use for. On those worlds, the people are abandoned and left to fend for themselves.
Egeria, a Goa'uld whose mind had not been warped by Thoth's defective healing device, has become horrified by the state of the Empire. She breaks away from the Empire. Her brood form a rebellion whose ultimate goal is to overthrow the System Lords. As the Supreme System Lord was Ra, this faction of dissidents named themselves Tok'ra. As punishment for her treachery, Ra ripped Egeria out from her host and placed her in a canopic jar on Pangar. While the Tok'ra waged war against the Goa'uld, they found their efforts futile. The issue was the sheer size of the Empire and the ease in which they could replenish resources. The death of one Goa'uld just meant the rise of another, and this was doing nothing but causing chaos. A hydra of galactic proportions. Nothing they did actually made a difference, and defeats meant losses. And without a queen, they had negative population growth. So, over time, Tok'ra began to use more subtle tactics. Killing the Goa'uld one at a time was not going to cut it. They needed the chance to take out all the Goa'uld at once. All they needed was to bide their time. They used various forms of sabotage and espionage to prevent the Goa'uld from ever being a united force, while picking off vulnerable Goa'uld here or there. But their ultimate goal was to wait for the opportunity to take out the entire Goa'uld leadership in one blow. Beginning around 2,000 years ago, the third Goa'uld dynasty is when we see the Goa'uld we are much more familiar with today. A new order of System Lords is created, with Ra continuing his role as Supreme System Lord. By this point, the Goa'uld had ruled the galaxy unchallenged for about 10,000 years, and as you saw at the end of the second dynasty, stagnancy was setting in. They had gone 10,000 years without any real challenge. Most spacefaring civilizations had been conquered by this point. The only ones left were either peaceful, primitive, or hiding, so they flew under the radar. What was left wasn't conquest but cleanup. The Tok'ra continued their war against the Goa'uld to little effect, and the war with the Asgard had reached a stalemate. Finally, the Asgard declare a truce of sorts. They draw up the Protected Planets Treaty. The treaty recognizes that the Goa'uld rule the galaxy and that humans exist for the Goa'uld to use as hosts and slaves. However, the Goa'uld would be forbidden to access certain planets and territories. With that, Goa'uld conflict mostly drew to a close, and the Goa'uld would fight amongst themselves for power for the next 2,000 years, until something finally changed. This is where the expanded material ends and the series officially begins. The Tari find their Stargate after thousands of years.
Herregud, vad är det? Jag önskar visst för det. سعيد انا ما خفيف هنا بس ها ارفع يلا يلا رجاله على مهلك
And while it took 100 years to figure it out, they got it working. Twice. Ignoring Ernest, the first mission was to a planet called Abydos, the domain of Ra, and it just so happened Ra also showed up. Not expecting the Tari, he was only accompanied by a few bodyguards. The Tari managed to get the Abydonians to rise up against Ra, and they beam a nuke aboard Ra's ship. Did you know that a nuclear fireball burns hotter than the sun? Just saying, it was rather fitting that a sun god got taken out by a fireball hotter than the sun. Anyways, the Goa'uld had no idea what happened, only that the Supreme System Lord bit the dust. This also left a power vacuum, one that would be filled by Ra's brother, Apophis. Claiming Ra's territory, the first thing he does is go through Ra's old domain in search for a host for his mate, Amunet. This causes him to set foot on Earth and Abydos. This alerts Earth that the Stargate network is more vast than they originally thought. And thus came the formation of the SGC. Seeking out the kidnapped, the SGC followed Apophis to the planet Chulak. But that's where they were apprehended. Right before they were about to be executed, Tari leader Jack O'Neill inspires the first Prime Tilk to defect.
I can save these people!
Help me.
Many have said that. But you are the first I believe could do it.
It was O'Neill, Carter, Daniel, and Tilk who would form the Team SG-1, a team that would eventually spell the end of the Goa'uld. If the Goa'uld were unaware of the Tari before, they knew now. Thus became the SGC's MO, find allies and technology to defend against the galaxy's Great Filter. The first true conflict came when Apophis dispatched 2 ships to conquer Earth. But Daniel, having come from an alternate reality in the middle of being conquered by the Goa'uld, had information that let SG-1 sneak aboard the ships and destroy them from within.
Sir, we've got reports from all over the country. A huge fireball in the night sky!
Along the way, Earth would find an ally with Tok'ra and the Asgard. But the real victory came when they accidentally killed Hathor.
Destroy you for this.
We, just like you, to go away!
Being a former System Lord, this put them on the radar of the Goa'uld. Knowing Earth would get wiped out, the Asgard offered Earth protection under the Protected Planets Treaty. The summit was attended by the System Lords Cronus, Nirti, and you. Representing the Asgard was Thor, and O'Neill would broker on behalf of the Tari. The System Lords did agree to accept Earth as part of the treaty in exchange for access to the passage of Nylor, but with one other condition. Earth would have to give up its Stargate.
Both of them.
Left with no choice, the Tari were ready to surrender their gate. However, things took a turn as Goa'uld nature flared. Nirti attempted to assassinate Cronus and pin it on the Tari. However, the Tari saved the lives of Cronus and you, as well as exposed Nirti's treachery. Indebted, they agree that Earth can keep its Stargate.
Thank you.
Sorry.
However, the Goa'uld maintained their right to defend their territory against Tari incursion. But this would prove to be a mistake. The Tari and Tok'ra would be responsible for the demise of multiple Goa'uld System Lords. Seth, Sokar, Heror, Apophis, The threat the Tari represented wasn't physical, it was ideological. Amongst the Tari rank were Tilk and his teacher Braytak, legendary Jaffa warriors. And worse, the Goa'uld were not permitted to stomp on the Earth insects. All their actions had incited rebellion as the Jaffa began to question the Goa'uld position as gods.
Only when he takes a host does a Goa'uld become strong. Even then, only as strong as the Jaffa who serve them. Without us, the Goa'uld are nothing.
Lies.
We are their strength. We are their power. Until we choose to serve them no more.
If you've come to hear me, then you know in your heart and in your mind that the Goa'uld are not gods. Still, I am but one warrior. Only together, we are an army of warriors!
It was around this time a familiar face returned. Anubis has survived the last civil war, having spent the time to gain knowledge regarding the ancients as well as ancient technology. He had deceived the ascended ancient Omid Sala into ascending him. Keep in mind, while ascended beings are not gods by technicality, they're pretty damn close. When Shri and the other ascended realized what had happened, they tried to force him to descend, but only could get him part way. He couldn't use his powers without incurring the wrath of the other ascended, but he could still use his knowledge he gained from ascension. He asked the System Lords to support him, and he'll rid them of their problems. While he couldn't hold true on his promise immediately, He came close. He came very close. He nearly bombed the Tok'ra to extinction. His ships became equipped with weapons and shields that could match the Asgard's.
Enemy ship is powering weapons. Shields are holding.
The ship remains undamaged.
Our days of bowing to the Asgard are finally over.
Since the Goa'uld were not permitted to invade Earth, he found other ways around it. He coerced the Toland to prepare weapons of mass destruction against the Tari, foiled only because of the actions of Omak and Narim. In another instance, he sent an extinction-level asteroid to Earth. Part of the Protected Planets Treaty states that the Asgard cannot intervene with natural disasters, meaning Earth was on its own, which meant they were going to use a nuclear explosion to deflect the asteroid off course. However, the asteroid had enough naquadah to create a small nova, which meant that this planet would also destroy Earth, if not the whole solar system. However, SG-1 managed to use a hyperspace window to cause it to jump to the other side of the planet instead. Earth was safe thanks to the Protected Planets Treaty. However, Anubis came close to exterminating the Tok'ra and the rebel Jaffa. With each passing day, Anubis was creating more and more innovations to turn the tides of the war. While this happened, SG-1 focused their efforts on finding the lost city of the Ancients, where they hoped they could find weapons and technology to fend off Anubis. With everything in place, Anubis launched an assault on Earth while SG-1 raced to find the lost city under the ice of Antarctica. While they didn't find the city, they at least found a weapon that vanquished Anubis' fleet.
Thousands of bright yellow... I don't know. They're coming from the surface. I don't know what they are. They're cutting the enemy fleet to shreds. My God, it's beautiful.
With Anubis presumed dead, the System Lords found yet another shakeup in the power structure, with Baal becoming the powerhouse of the System Lords. However, unbeknownst to everyone, the reason for Baal's success was because Anubis had survived and was pulling the strings behind the scenes. The final blow dealt to the System Lords came not from the Tari but the Replicators, an enemy that nearly wiped out the Asgard. The Replicators swooped in and wiped out the System Lords. The alliance of Tok'ra, Jaffa, and Tari had to play carefully. They had undermined the Goa'uld status as gods, but this plague appeared to be divine punishment for doubting. The Jaffa captured the holy planet of Dakara, the birthplace of their race. It was Anubis' plan to use it to lure out all the rebel Jaffa, then wipe them out. However, Baal caught on to Anubis' true intention. Hidden on Dakara was an ancient device that could restructure the entire galaxy on an atomic level. Once Anubis had wiped out the rebel Jaffa, he intended to secretly activate the device and purge the galaxy of organic life. When Baal's extermination force arrived, Baal stalled for time, hoping the Alliance could destroy the weapon. Instead, upon learning it could be used to destroy the Replicators, he helped the rebels activate the weapon and purge the galaxy of the Replicators. When the battle was over, Baal suddenly found himself surrounded by rebel Jaffa.
Behold, your false god.
Baal managed to escape, but word of this soon spread far and wide. The image of the Goa'uld as gods had been permanently shattered, and the Replicators had wiped out the System Lords. This was perhaps the most momentous victory for the galaxy. While it would take a few more years to hunt down the last surviving System Lord Baal, and there were a handful of small pockets of Goa'uld and loyal Jaffa, they no longer held domain over the galaxy. For the first time in 30,000 years, the galaxy was free from Goa'uld terror.
Behold, the last of the System Lords.
The Goa'uld were not defeated in a single battle with the death of its leaders. No, It was the hearts and minds of those under their thrall that saw through Goa'uld lies and refused to be enslaved. This is the true face of the Goa'uld, a parasitic creature that seizes control of the host body. All a Goa'uld needs to seize control of a host is a brainstem. They can gain access in a host in a variety of ways, the most common being going for the neck. However, they can enter the body through nearly any means. If it enters through the mouth, it won't leave a scar. And we've seen at least one Goa'uld enter through the hand. Once a Goa'uld takes the host body, they gain access to the host's memories and knowledge, as if they were the one who lived it. The process can be intimate. By absorbing their knowledge and memory, the Goa'uld effectively absorbs a part of the host. This can actually impact the Goa'uld themselves. That said, in the almost 100,000 years of Goa'uld existence, there has never been a notable incident of that actually majorly impacting a Goa'uld. The closest we have is Chlorel, who became hesitant to follow through on his execution of O'Neill and Tilk, and hesitated to continue his invasion of Earth. We know that Kiana's Goa'uld claimed to have been influenced by the host's feelings, but we cannot be sure. But it's possible, as it not only sacrificed itself to save the planet, but even the host. The intimacy of blending is more of a thing for the Tok'ra, who achieve symbiosis with the host. We see that with Kanan, who fell in love with Baal Slotar. Despite his feelings, he was initially going to abandon her. But after blending with O'Neill, he was confronted with O'Neill's moral code, including never leaving people behind. This emotion was so strong that he did the single greatest taboo of the Tok'ra in order to save her. He seized control of O'Neill's body by force. The Goa'uld also endow the body with high tolerance and even immunity to various poisons and diseases. Their healing has been accelerated, their life prolonged to thousands, even tens of thousands of years, and are gifted with greater strength. The healing power of the Goa'uld is immense, able to cure cancer, revitalize failing organs, and even repair genetic damage. We do know that it's possible for a host body to reject Goa'uld blending. However, it's never been witnessed before. But we know that Queen Goa'uld seek the semen of host species so they can eliminate any chance of rejection.
Maybe we'll at least get a cellular level analysis on the Goa'ulds, maybe even find some DNA information.
A lot of that will probably be mine. You?
However, even without this process, a Goa'uld can still take a host. We see this as we've seen Goa'uld take animals as hosts, and I strongly doubt they shag those things.
What are you talking about?
A symbiote. The Goa'uld symbiote. It's still alive. It's inside that thing.
Goa'uld have genetic memory. A Goa'uld is born with all the memories of its maternal lineage. You should begin to see how the Goa'uld became so adept at conquest. If you ever want to know something, it's a matter of taking the right host, and all that knowledge will now be passed down to your genetic lineage. Removal of a Goa'uld parasite has proven extraordinarily difficult. The only two groups that have been able to consistently remove them are the Tok'ra and the Asgard. A Goa'uld is very hardy, so much so that even if you surgically remove the majority of its body, if you don't get rid of all of it, it'll still remain in control of the host. Also, Goa'uld possess a deadly toxin that it releases into the host's body upon death. It can also release it at will, killing them on a whim. It is possible for the Goa'uld to die without releasing the toxin, but this has to be an active choice, and one that comes at great expense to the Goa'uld. This is seen with Selmak, who expired due to age. He had initially offered to sacrifice himself so Jacob Carter could continue living. But this was during the battle with the Replicators, so Jacob pushed Selmak to stay. As a result, Selmak didn't have enough energy to save Jacob's life, and the two died together. The Goa'uld are... I don't think there's a term for it. You see, every animal, plant, and bug on Earth possesses reproductive organs of some sort. Now, they may be damaged, non-functioning, or unusable, but the creatures have them. Gonochoristic animals, such as humans, have either male or female reproductive organs. In order to reproduce, a male must inseminate a female. Hermaphrodites have both male and female reproductive organs in the same body, letting any hermaphrodite inseminate another. In gonochoristic animals, a male cannot inseminate another male, and a female cannot inseminate a female, but hermaphrodites can inseminate any of their kind. The above mentioned are cases of sexual reproduction requiring two individuals. However, there is asexual reproduction involving self-fertilizing hermaphrodites. The individual has both male and female reproductive organs and can inseminate themselves. However, the Goa'uld do not possess any reproductive organs of any kind, with only one exception: Goa'uld queens. Goa'uld queens undergo a type of facultative parthenogenesis, where asexual reproduction is performed, but they can still accept genetic materials from a partner. Basically, a Goa'uld queen will produce new larvae without needing insemination. However, they can accept the genetic material from a male, just not a Goa'uld. To reduce the possibility of rejection, queens will often mate with the male of the species they wish to make host. The genetic material likely goes through the expected means of entry, and the body absorbs it. Reportedly, they find humans to be much more pleasant in this regard than any host in the past. I'd make a joke about Spiky Una's penises, but I'm too horrified to think about it.
Ew.
All the larvae have the genetic memory of the maternal lineage. How a Goa'uld queen is created is unknown. It could be a matter of random birth, or it could be a matter of how they are raised. If we take examples from creatures on Earth, the reproductive organs of female ants are broken by default. But if they are fed the correct nutrients and hormones, these organs are repaired, and the ant is turned into a queen. If we look at honeybees, a larvae is fed something called royal jelly, which causes it to grow into a queen. But as for Goa'uld queens, we just do not know. But it is clearly a special process. Ants, bees, wasps, termites, they have special emergency procedures for producing new queens in the event that theirs dies. However, the Tok'ra are unable to procure a new queen. Despite the lack of sexual organs, the Goa'uld do have genders. More specifically, they appear to just assume the gender of the host, likely the result of the blending. This is best seen with Osiris. Osiris is male in Egyptian mythology, and originally had a male host. However, after he took control of Sarah Gardner, Osiris' body language, mannerisms, and taste in clothing shifted to feminine. Selmak was originally hosted in a female, but after transferring to Jacob Carter, Selmak's identity became male. It does not appear a Goa'uld queen needs to leave her host in order to produce offspring. Hathor did not appear to leave her host body after procreating with Daniel.
Ew.
If you want to know which hole the babies came out of, it's probably the same hole where babies normally come out of. It seems a queen only needs to leave her host if she wants to increase the birth rates, at which point they create a large external ovipositor. Inside the host, the birth rates are hundreds per cycle. Outside, the birth rate is thousands. If the queen wishes to take a host again, it needs to separate from an external ovipositor. Queens do have the ability to suppress genetic memory, leave the symbiotes as blank slates. However, this has to be an active decision, and this was not known until Egeria, who was the first recorded queen to do this. Even then, the only Goa'uld who discovered this was Anubis by probing Jonas's mind. The Goa'uld Empire is effectively an enormous network of vassal states. Each Surzane, a state having control over another state, serves not only as a ruling state but as a higher class within the hierarchical system. When you interact with the Goa'uld Empire, a vast majority of the time you don't interact with the Goa'uld state, but a vassal state somewhere in between the hierarchical chain. Each vassal state is given a degree of independence and autonomy. However, they are not granted true self-determination. There are 3 major levels observed within the structure. At the bottom of the pyramid are the slaves. Although they are permitted to build their civilization and form a government, they remain ultimately subservient to the Jaffa and the Goa'uld above them. The decrees of the Jaffa and the Goa'uld supersede any local laws, placing them completely at the mercy of their superiors. And Surzane citizens are above the law, meaning a Jaffa could go into a human village and conduct a massacre whenever he wants. Likewise, a Goa'uld can massacre Jaffa whenever he wants. Now, you might be wondering why I'm saying slaves, which is more of a social class rather than a vassal state. And that's because they're the same in the eyes of the Goa'uld. Every state is a lower social class. The Jaffa might be higher than everyone else, but Jaffa are still lower. Because of the success of humans, most slave states are mostly comprised of humans. The slave states are kept primitive and uneducated, medieval at best, but sometimes more primitive. Not only does this make it hard to rebel, but it also makes it so the claims of divinity could not be questioned. when the most advanced piece of technology is the water wheel, then sticks that shoot exploding bolts of light are magical weapons. They are usually located near Naquadah mines and are instructed to mine even in the absence of Goa'uld Jaffa. One level above the slaves are the Jaffa. Although still technically slaves, Jaffa are granted more privileges and have more access to advanced technology, albeit to a limited degree. Like humans, Jaffa are given a degree of independence and autonomy, with their own system of government. However, they lack true self-determination, as the Goa'uld authority supersedes all. This level of autonomy was crucial during the Jaffa Rebellion, as it allowed them to retain a functioning government structure even after overthrowing the Goa'uld. Jaffa states tend to be separate from slave states, though there will be a handful of slaves working within Jaffa regions. Sitting at the top of the hierarchy are the Goa'uld. Although they possess self-determination, they do not form a true state. Instead, they are a collection of powerful individuals to whom all must capitulate. Unlike lower classes who are restricted in their access to advanced technology, the Goa'uld are surrounded by it, with the totality of the galaxy's knowledge at their fingertips. In many ways, they resemble a massive criminal empire, akin to a galaxy-wide mafia. The Goa'uld function as the bosses, underbosses, and capos, with the Jaffa as their enforcers and the slaves as their victims. While seen as leaders, the Goa'uld do very little actual leading. They might be in charge of war and diplomacy, but that's no different than children fighting over possession of a toy. Things such as economics and social laws are left up to the discretion of the states. Otherwise, the Goa'uld are simply basking in the glory. A significant chunk of the Goa'uld state is automated. Because the vassal civilizations must be kept primitive, they don't truly understand how the advanced technology works, and cannot be allowed to know. As a result, most of their production and labor is performed by automated machinery. The vassal slaves only need to mine for the materials. You see in Thor's chariot a pyramid in the middle of growing itself. Even though Anubis was in the middle of phasing out his Jaffa in favor of the Kull warriors, he still used Jaffa. Despite this, there were no Jaffa on Tartarus. A vast majority of what could be considered the Goa'uld state are hyper-advanced factories and bases with no Jaffa presence. The Goa'uld themselves operate on a feudal system. While above the slaves and Jaffa, the Goa'uld are not always equal. Often a Goa'uld will be the servant to a higher power, and in turn has Goa'uld subordinates of his own. In exchange for servitude, they are awarded technology and power. But this is a fragile balance ruled by selfishness and greed. A Goa'uld serves only because they see it as a path towards greater power, and the moment a Goa'uld lets their guard down, they risk being assassinated by a subordinate or a peer. The death of a Goa'uld, even a higher ranking Goa'uld, does not mean the death of their empire. Best case scenario, for us at least, is that the empire is then fractured as the lieutenants fight for power. But most often, one of the subordinates will fill their place. The worst thing that could happen is another Goa'uld will absorb their armies and territories. You may be wondering, if most of their stuff is automated, why do they still use slaves? That ties into Goa'uld nature, which I'll cover in the next part of my video.